So today's topic is one that's very near and dear to me. It's something that I've been thinking about, talking about, writing about, and working through and living through in my own life for, I'd say, the last decade. I think it's a topic that impacts men and women equally. I think it's something that both are thinking about heavily, especially as you move from your early 20s and progress through your life. You start thinking about what does the domestic sphere, the domestic agreement look like between you and your partner? What life and lifestyle are you seeking? What does balance look like? And loaded topic alert, there is, I won't say wealth, there is a landslide, an avalanche, Mount Everest-sized stack of information you can run into on Twitter, on all social media, on TikTok, on YouTube, that talk about this entire web of topics, right? You have the high-value woman notion, you have the high-value man notion, you have hypergamy, you have all sorts of, from the female lens, hypergamy, and which is like dating up, women that are seeking a man with more status, more social class, mobility, and more material wealth and assets than them, and that's a lot of people argue that that's women's true nature. I won't get into that in this podcast episode, maybe some other day, but you have a lot of topics around this sort of notion of what does balance look like? What are men and women fundamentally seeking from partnership? Just on a very matrix, basic, unawakened human level. If you take that a step deeper and you get into the communities that are about healing and self-improvement, and even deeper than that to a more esoteric space that's more about spiritual healing, you get into the divine masculine, divine feminine, those templates, how they interact, and what they ultimately mean for partnership in the domestic sphere. How does our inner balance project out into our outer world, and how do men and women in partnership, or masculine and feminine in partnership, how do they navigate the material world, the outer, like our physical, tangible selves and the tangible home, given what they know, believe, and have acclimated to within themselves. So I'm going to get into that because I've recently discovered a YouTuber. I think she has a podcast and she's written some books, and she has some really solid thinking regarding being in your feminine energy, but there's also some aspects, as is my right, that I don't agree with regarding what she presents. And I'm going to get into that now. So in my mind, there's really 4 key settings. And that's an important number to think about in your mind as you're looking at this as like different quadrants. So if you've ever seen something across like an XY chart and you've got quadrants and everything's kind of a spectrum and there's different settings on the spectrum, I really look at this kind of like 4 key quadrants. So there's a lot of talk today about stay-at-home wife and mother, trad culture, what have you, and how that's not right for women, and how women should work and have a career, and that's what's right for women. And then others say, that's what feminism has given us, and it's stolen a vital role in society from women and made them more like men. And I think there are valid criticisms to both. Honestly, I think that there's extremely valid criticism to saying that a woman shouldn't be chained to the stove, in the kitchen, working within the home, only on unpaid housework, while her husband financially provides, if that's not her choice. I also think that archetype and arrangement is completely villainized unfairly and needlessly, because people are projecting a lot of their own insecurities, their own lack of capabilities onto that, and telling women they shouldn't want that and that a man owns them, when in reality that couple is what I would call, if I could analyze all of it, if I look at the way it's structured, I could say that that's healthy 50-50 balance. And I'm going to get into that. So if we just look, and I'm kind of using this 4 and 4 to keep it simple and streamlined. So we have 4 archetypical settings, and they're based on percentages of giving across 4 key quadrants of the domestic sphere. And so I look at it like there's the financial aspect, that's one area. The household management aspect, that's the second area. Child rearing, which is the third, which includes, of course, across household management and child rearing. These 2 areas are split with a lot of emotional labor, which is often not talked about and not considered as one of women's key contributions, and a contribution that women would want from men, especially in the child rearing sphere and in the support of the wife, of the partner sphere. And then lastly, the fourth one is sex, of course. So these are kind of the 4 aspects of the domestic sphere that people are looking for in marriage and partnership. And what we're talking about here is a 100%, and the first quadrant is a 100% financial commitment from the man. And this is important. A lot of women say never go 50-50 with a man. You want a man to pay for everything. But I would ask them, what is it that you're doing? Because it's always 50-50. It's always 50-50 in relationships. No one is looking to come into a partnership as a profound act of charity and take on another dependent in totality. And that's one of the reasons why I go hard and I go to bat for stay-at-home wife and mother template. Because these women and men have found an arrangement that works for them, where they're having a masculine doing 100% of financial contribution. You're having the wife hold down household management and child rearing for the most part. Of course, the husband would be a present father, but largely he's turning over all the household management items and all the child rearing that doesn't require a masculine frame. He's handing that over to the woman and saying, this is your sacred role. She's saying, you're the sacred role as my provider and provider protector for our family. I see nothing wrong with this. And I know that's going to get a lot of people who are self-identified feminists who think I'm a feminist. That's really going to upset you, and that's fine. I'm here to provoke thought, reflection. You don't have to agree with me. This is just the way I see it. And I'm really tired of seeing people pick apart women who are stay-at-home wife and mother, try to tell them their husband is this tyrant that wants to own them and lord over them. That is so misogynistic, because what you're doing when you do that is you are belittling the role of wife and mother. You're belittling the fact that household management and child rearing is what makes society go round. Yes, we need money. Yes, we need providence. But there are intangibles and there are emotional investments and there's emotional management and domestic management that keeps all of us safe, secure, happy, blissful. That's what life is worth living for. And the 2 are sharing it in partnership. That to me is 50-50. And if you think that that's not, you're deeply confused. Naturally, the sex quadrant for this couple, it's 50-50, right? Both are doing sweet things for each other. Maybe the husband's buying flowers. Maybe the wife is cooking his favorite dessert every so often. It's a traditional arrangement. And I would hope in this arrangement that the man is retiring the woman. Probably he is. He's a provider type, the classic masculine archetype. And this doesn't say that these people aren't deeply healed and operating from a masculine and feminine divine template. So let's just abandon this bizarre logic altogether. Just because you don't want to be a stay-at-home wife and mother doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it. I don't either as a full-time arrangement regarding my domestic sphere, and we'll get into that, I think, next, because I would rather talk about the 2 balances and then talk about the imbalance. So the next one that's also 50-50, divine masculine, divine feminine, is 50-50 financial outlay by both of the partners, 50-50 household management. My husband and I work in this arrangement, 50-50 financially, 50-50 in household management, meaning and we kind of have it split along our genius zones or core competencies. If it's relating to beautifying the home decor, some of the softer skills, like I sew different clothes or take them to the tailor, I'm the one that thinks about the throw pillows and the this and the that and what furniture shapes. My husband puts the furniture together. My husband carries the furniture, hauls it in, or works with the movers who do so, hires people to make the repairs, puts in repair tickets with repairmen. He does all of these things. And if the dishwasher acts weird, he looks into it, just generally Mr. Fix-It, because that's something that's deeply important to me. I was raised in a culture where men, no matter how educated or white collar their career, they are good with their hands and they can do things. Like, that's just so important to me. And I'm really happy to have found that. And then the child rearing is 50-50. Of course, as a woman, the biological burden on me is going to be a lot greater. And we've talked about this. My goal and vision for child rearing is that I can be a stay-at-home mom while they're really little, and then return back to my corporate work when they're aged 2.5, 3, and they'll go to Montessori to get a jump start on kindergarten education. That's very important to me and my husband, because we want children that are highly capable problem solvers, as we were taught to be. And I can't speak for my husband, but I was invested in by my mother predominantly and my grandmother. And so I was able to read before I even got to kindergarten. And I don't mean I could read like 5 words, 10 words, little simple. Like, I could read anything for the most part put before me, and was already reading like small chapter books in kindergarten while everyone else was struggling through like Sam and Pam sat with Tam. There's not a humble brag. I don't humble brag. It's just a fact, is a statement. If you're triggered by that, that's on you. It has nothing to do with me. And naturally, not to overshare my life, but similar to the first couple in the first quadrant, the whole sex aspect is 50-50. We're both doing kind gestures. We're both keeping the romance alive. We're both investing in each other in that way of, little gifts and thoughtful gestures. We're both doing things like planning trips. Usually I'm the one with the vision of what the trip could be. I'm good at picking restaurants and resorts and activities that align with whatever the group's interests are, be it just my husband and I or a group, small, medium, large. And then we both pay for these things together, 50-50 financial. And then my husband, of course, does all the tactical like bookings, lay of the land, logistics. And then, once we're on the trip, I'm just sort of a passenger princess because the masculine leads, and he just, he gets us there. And I make sure to be a pleasant, polite lady the whole time, because that, that's my value add. In giving him the ability to be the masculine and lead, I settle into my feminine energy of just being beauty and grace personified, because that's how we like to do things around here. And so let's get into what I would consider the imbalance. And I'm hearing a lot of this on this community in Facebook that I'm a part of. I won't give you the exact title because I don't want to like name and shame or start anything. It was just a group that I joined out of interest for the whole movement. I've seen a lot of discourse around high value women, high value men, how to become a high value woman, how to not accept 50-50. And I'm just so confused because, like I said, partnership by definition is 50-50. I think people just lack the critical thinking skills to understand that just because it's not financially 50-50 and the man's paying 100 doesn't mean in the other quadrants he's also completely covering it. Because honestly, if you want a man to cover everything 100% financially, you don't want to do household management, you don't want to do child rearing, that's a father. Like, that's you wanting a dad as an adult woman. That is not you, an adult woman in her power, wanting a partner to build with. That feels to me more like a father wound, and you're going to continue to come up short. You're going to continue to meet men that don't fit what you want, because what you want is a father, and a man is looking for a wife, not a daughter. He wants to have a daughter with a wife, but you're fundamentally wanting two different things, and you're choosing from your unhealed wounds, your scarcity, your lack, your disempowerment, that you can't bring abundance into your own life. And honey, I've written a book about it. I worked through this from every possible angle. Working from a Birkin, working for a Birkin, that's its core nucleus. I had this wound because of my experiences cross-generationally on my mom's side of the family predominantly, and my experience with my own father, as my father moved to a different continent when I was little, as my parents are divorced. I worked through this in entirety and made full sense of it and wrote a book about it. So if you are moving from a scarcity wound of disempowerment that you can't be your own abundance, that needs to get healed, because you're never going to find what you're looking for. Trust me. You're going to find all sorts of just poor fitting men, and you're going to get your heart broken, and you're going to think that all men are horrible and no one No one wants to give you what you want because men aren't good enough and aren't capable, and you're going to start villainizing men. And men are not the problem. The problem is you. Like Taylor Swift says, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me. In this case, the problem is you. And I'm going to tell you why. To me, and I'm calling this, and no shame to her, she's a beautiful woman, very elegantly dressed. I'm sure has certain strong points and positives in her personality, but this is the Melania Trump archetype. The man is 100% the financial provider. The man pays for 90% of the household management, so you outsource it. Therefore, you're covering maybe 10% of it on a good day. The child rearing, that third quadrant, so we've got 1, 2, and 3 covered here. Child rearing, maybe 20% you're doing, maybe 30% on a good day. 80% he's outsourcing and paying for. So you're asking for a man to financially fit the bill across all 3 of these areas. He's contributing 100% financially and then pouring into these other 2 areas. What man would do that, you ask? In my opinion, in my experience, in the archetype I've seen from Jackie Kennedy to Melania Trump and back again, men then will say, okay, then that fourth quadrant, sex, that 4th category, the woman is now doing all the heavy lifting there. And you can see that in the Melania archetype because all of her focus, what she seeks to provide, what she's providing Donald Trump is she's a sex object. She is the genetic wife sex object in that it's the woman he sees as a sex object to reproduce with, maybe someone with good genes. Her appearance is vitally important. Not only does she have a strong natural beauty, but she then will use, you guessed it, more money from the man over time as she ages to invest into her appearance and preserve it. And women have drunk the Kool-Aid on this. I think because they're obsessed with materialism, they have become obsessed with the Kardashian lifestyle, which none of the Kardashians have a man that financially provides for them. They've always had, Kim was the closest one, I think, to having, maybe Kourtney because she seems healed and reasonable, and she and Travis seem like a very equivalent 50-50 couple. But the rest of them are single, have multiple children, no father in the picture, a man many times that they never married, but have allowed to father children and are in and out of the children's lives, and it's a whole weird situation. Kanye is incredibly wealthy and successful in his own right. Never mind how you feel about him in a psychological basis. But what you really see here is women kind of obsessed with a certain lifestyle because they want to be. It's so wrapped up in their self-esteem and self-worth. It's highly validating to be this beautiful jewel that men would pay for. It's kind of courtesan behavior is what I call this. Personally, when I see this in women, I'm like, that's courtesan behavior. You don't really want to be a wife. You want to have a man paying your way, and you take that as the ultimate affirmation of your worth as a woman. That's why they become so beauty obsessed. That's why now we have eyelash extensions and false nails and hair extensions and you name it, BBLs and this and that, and people using the phrase "get your body done." I don't know what that means. I do, but I don't want to know what it means. I wish I didn't know what it meant to get your entire body overhauled. My word. And so these women are basically self-objectifying. When you mount on a bunch of falsities onto yourself, it makes it easier for men to see you as an object, which is another way porn cultures come in and eroded everyone's minds like a cancer. And now women are mounting a false butt, breast implants, false lips, false eyelashes, false hair, false nails, nothing real anymore, because they want to compete with other women to be a more high value object for purchase so that men purchase them. And by purchase, I mean integrate them into their lifestyle and pay their whole way. While these women, their end of the deal is to just be that sex object. But more often than not, men that will agree to this type of arrangement, that want to financially pay for absolutely everything, including child rearing, including household management, those are men that don't value women. They don't value the maternal role. You'll notice they throw money at it. They don't even want or have faith in their wife's ability to do those things, so they outsource it to specialists. Then the wife focuses all her time on her appearance. And as a sex object, you notice that I said the genetic wife sex object, because generally these men, as you see with Donald Trump, as you see with JFK and the Jackie Kennedy example, they have multiple, allegedly, like let's not blame people. I wasn't in the room, but allegedly have multiple other women that they're with, because men like that see women through a narrow lens as just sex objects. And naturally, Donald Trump, I think, gravitated towards Melania because she had strong natural beauty. But with time, that diminishes. Donald and Melania do have a large enough age gap, and he has such a complex life and is in his 70s that I do not see him initiating a divorce. But you see this time and time again with men who are on their third wife. You know, they marry one woman when she's young, that they have children. They move on to a second one who's younger. And then they move on to yet another one who's younger, often even younger. And then that's the one that they will often age with because they just see women as sex objects. So when you, just to back it all up, when you have a man doing 100% of the financial contribution and your partnership is predicated on you outsourcing, your man paying for household management and child rearing, and you really contributing about 30% to his financial outlay of more than 200% of the load, almost 300% of this load, you're now over-indexing yourself into the sex aspect. And a part of that is your willingness to be a sex object, to put all of your money, time, energy, attention into keeping and maintaining your beauty, which we all age. Doesn't matter how many procedures you get. We all age. Accept it as a fact of life. Everything ages. Every animal, every plant, every person. It's a fact. Everyone ages. You're then indexing it to be that's your sole focus, but you also now need to be open and not penalize him for his taking on other sex object women. That's part of the price you pay. That's you doing 100% of the lifting in the sex department. And you'll probably see very few romantic gestures from this man that aren't just him throwing money at it. And I think a lot of women are obsessed with the notion of this because they have a father wound. They never had a man help them feel safe, secure, stable. So they fantasize about this world where they can get any material object they want, any experience, because it's not about those things or those places or those experiences. It's about their self-esteem and self-worth. They're so obsessed because of this core wound. Their father didn't do it for them. This core wound that they need a man to do it to prove to them that they're worth it. And they never heal the wound, so that the man has to keep feeding that wounded behavior. And a lot of men who have that archetype will take advantage of that. They're fine with that arrangement. They have lots of money to burn, and they're fine with this being the way that it is. Not for me. Not going to work for me. Certainly not. But if men or women listeners are wondering, where does that come from? Why is this a thing? This is prevalent now. So prevalent in the generation of people who are 20 to 35 that it's just insane. And that's why you have a lot of women kind of unfairly, when it's unfairly stating that men don't make enough, this, that, I want this or that, I'm a fancy girl, yada, yada. It's this entire line of thinking. Maybe not as extreme as a Melania Trump example, but that's what it is. And then the alternate fourth is kind of an inversion on this, where the woman is doing a 100% financial contribution and the man is taking on the household management, taking on the child rearing, 100%, both of those, and they're going 50-50 in the sex category, or the man is looking to the woman to outsource it. But I think generally this would be a man operating in his feminine energy and the woman occupying a more masculine role. I personally don't have any experience with this. I would not want this, and I don't know very many couples where this is the working arrangement, but I'd be interested to learn more about it before making any comment. I just wanted to outline that there's kind of 4 core settings or calibrations based on the way you craft your 50-50. And so for the last time in any healthy relationship, in any balance, it's always 50-50. The 50-50 may not be financial, but if you're not going 50-50 split financially with your man, you're coming up with your 50-50 elsewhere. If he's going 100%, your 50-50 is coming elsewhere. So you got to be really mindful about where do you want that to come from. And I'll do a breakout session, a breakout episode about my 50-50 and why I chose what I chose and what matters to me. So maybe it will be of benefit to any listeners. But think really critically about that as you see women screaming about being a high-value woman, and a high-value woman doesn't accept 50-50. I would ask you to try to understand kind of the three options when you're a feminine woman with a masculine partner. The three options being two different ways to do 50-50. The third being that Melania Trump arrangement. And you make sense for you, what makes sense for you. I'm not telling anyone what to do. I just want everyone to be informed and make sense of what the arrangement is. And I'll just leave you with the thought that when Melania Trump was asked in interviews about her husband's alleged infidelities, and about his carryings on, she said, "I know who I married." She's also notorious for having multiple prenups and revisions to prenups. So it kind of lets you understand that Melania is leveraging that 100% sex allocation to benefit financially while not having to do any of the household management or child rearing that she finds unpleasant. And that's fine. It's just you've made marriage into a different institution than spiritual connection, love, honor, and have dignity for and regard for. It's something different, and that's okay. Different strokes for different folks. It's just, I want to leave you with that thought. And if it's helpful, you can map out what I was discussing and add the percentages and kind of look at it for yourself. That's what I certainly did. And I think more understanding will come to you. If you have any questions about this, you can always tweet at me at @ThatMichaela. Find me on Instagram at @ThatMichaela or at Rosewood Institute. Have a beautiful day.